The following is a paid commercial announcement. The view of the following program does not necessarily reflect those of the staff, management, or sponsors of News Radio 1180 WHAM.
Now on 50,000 Watt News Radio 1180 WHAM. This is Ask the Experts. Grab a line now at 222-1180. Star 1180, a free call for Verizon Wireless subscribers, or the One Communications line at 1-800-295-1180. Now live from the WHAM studios in downtown Rochester, it's Ask the Experts.
Good evening and welcome to Simply Green Radio here on News Radio 1180 WHAM. Simply Green Radio brought to you by Simply Green Energy and Mr. Rooter Plumbing. A website that we can give out tonight, folks, mysimplygreenenergy.com, mysimplygreenenergy.com. Always a pleasure to have here in studio Maurice Aubry, Mo, the project manager at Simply Green Energy, specializing in renewable energy. Pete Maurice, true story Pete, the project manager for renewable energy at Mr. Rooter Plumbing, specializing in water conservation and its green division. And also Brenna Hartman, a Fixie Chick and founder of HealthyHomesOfRochester.com. Pleasure to have all three of you back here in studio.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, good evening.
And you guys got to see, now we're 16 stories up. Was it doing this down on the ground? Was it snowing out there?
It is snow,
all
isn't
right,
it?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was about
absolutely.
50 or about 47 degrees when I came in here now, and now I'm looking up at the thermometer here. It says 35. So,
Hey, Brent, is that global warming? It's snowing in April.
But hey, Mo, I always like to start off the show by telling our listeners what Simply Green Energy is all about. What types of products do you offer? Just give an overview for listeners who might be tuning in for the first time about Simply Green Energy.
Sure. Simply Green Energy is basically a company that it was formed by a minority, by the ways. And the whole idea behind Simply Green Energy is to be a one-stop shopping company, that a person that wanted to get, become more green, if you will, for lack of a better word. Being able to install geothermal heating for your, for the heat and air conditioning, either solar voltaic panels for electricity or wind power, the windmills, and or superheating hot water with some tubes. So I don't want to give too much of that away because I don't want to spoil it for our guests later on in the segment. But yeah, it's fun, it's exciting, it's all new, new ideas and things that just seem to evolve every day. But of course, the nice spin-off on it is My Simply Green Radio, where we're sitting here talking about all the different things and hopefully be able to educate the listener as to what is available, by bringing in new guests every week. And, we're having a great time. And I know, Pete does spend some time throughout the week preparing for the show and having some factoids. I'm sure he's going to have one or two for us tonight.
He was Professor Pete last week. He was blowing me away.
Yes, he was. I thought he was rooting for a job myself.
Well, I want to keep my options open.
Right. And then, of course, Brenna always has a couple of good little pointers as well. So, but I wanted to plug National Dig Safely Month. Mm-hmm. I am a member of Dig Safely, and it's really important that the word gets out to anyone that is planning on doing any kind of an excavation. As April is usually the month where people start doing some projects around their house, and as simple as even perhaps doing installing a new mailbox out by the road, or putting a fence up or a deck up. A lot of times people never really think about what might be underground, and oftentimes there's buried electric wires, there's buried gas wires or gas lines, telephone lines, all that stuff. So, it's important that people understand that they simply need to call is 811, which is like one phone call does it all. And what they do is they notify all the utilities that may have utilities underground at your location. And it's free of charge. There's no cost to it, and it's done really to protect the homeowner and the neighborhoods, because there have been some really horrendous accidents that have occurred when people haven't called and have hit underground utilities. I mean, there's been buildings that have exploded because of it, or people getting electrocuted. So it's really important that people know to call 811, and you usually have to give them 3 business days in order for them to come out and mark everything. But,
Even for a mailbox, because I haven't dug for a mailbox before, but I don't think you'd have to dig very deep. But you could really potentially run into problems there.
You certainly can.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
You could plant bushes in your backyard and hit a utility.
Well,
if there's an
I guess
easement
you're
going
right.
through there.
Yeah.
You know, you got to watch it if you're around easements and such.
I'm glad you brought that up because I've actually used that service on multiple occasions because I keep adding on to my patios at home, and it is so easy. They coordinate it all for you. It isn't like you have to call our Genie and Time Warner Cable. They all come out and they flag it individually, and they make sure that you know where everything is. And you know, it's kind of neat to know anyway where all your stuff is. And also, I wanted to mention, I think you have to do it a certain amount of days prior, and then it's only good for a certain amount of days after. Do you know the details on that?
Look at you putting me to the test, Bruno. Of course I know those details. Yes, you're supposed to give them an advance notice of 3 working days, and then actually once it's marked out after that 3rd day, you have 10 days in order to start the project. And once you start your project, you're good, and it's good indefinitely as long as you maintain the marks that are there. So, you know, because it's kind of funny that you mention that because, you know, it's happened to us before where we said, you know, we started the job a couple of weeks ago. We left it for, you know, a couple of weeks, and we were wondering, do we need to call another stakeout, you know, and the answer to that was no, as long as you maintain your marks. So, very good points.
Thank you.
222-1180, the number. Well, I normally give out the number. We normally don't take calls in this first segment, but 222-1180 is the number to call. My Simply Green Energy is also a website that you can visit, mysimplygreenenergy.com. True story, Pete.
Yes.
You always have you said you do have a factoid for us this week.
I have one little factoid I picked up just today, as a matter of fact. There is one type of energy that in the last 50 years, in the United States I'm talking about, no one has died from. Either through the harvesting of that energy or the processing or the deployment of that energy. No one has died from this particular energy, working with it, in the last 50 years. Take a guess.
You have piqued my curiosity.
Well, I mean for mass energy.
Okay.
You know, oil, gas. Okay, I'm not talking about burning switchgrass or anything like that. I'm talking massive amounts. Guess what it is? Take a guess.
I haven't
It's
foggiest idea.
50 years, no one's died in nuclear energy.
Nuclear? Really?
Nuclear.
You love that nuclear energy,
it is one,
don't you?
Well, it is turning out to be one of the safest it's one of the safest way to deploy massive amounts of energy.
Interesting fact.
Yeah.
In this
be,
country?
In the United States.
Okay.
You know, I mean, we know we had Chernobyl in Russia and that sort of thing. But in the United States, no one has died from either harvesting, working with, or deploying nuclear energy in 50 years.
What's the plan I'm thinking of in it's got mile in it. Wasn't there something that happened there? But I guess nobody died. But
no, nobody died.
In Pennsylvania.
9 miles.
9 miles.
No,
Thank you.
You think about it, plenty of people die in coal mines.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? People even die with hydroelectric power. People die, you know, falling off of poles and electricity. I mean, with nuclear, no one's died yet. It was just a fact that just blew me away.
Interesting. Very interesting.
They just glow, right?
What?
The sandwiches.
That's the fish out in Lake Ontario right near Canay.
Right. I have an interesting fact as well, though not related to renewable energy, but on the lighter side of going green, since we are simply green over here, right?
Right.
I'm always thinking April, spring cleaning. You're thinking dig safely, but that's okay. I'm always in the kitchen getting organized and scrubbing down after a long winter, open up the windows. But I wanted to ask you guys, I know Pete already knows, so you can't say anything.
Okay.
If you can take a guess of how many Americans have the chemical called PFOA, which is used to make Teflon. You know what a Teflon coated pan is? Teflon?
Yep.
How many Americans have that compound in their blood? That actual...
Go ahead, Mo, because I haven't a clue.
I would have to say it's probably a pretty high percentage. You know, just guessing, Oh, yeah.
Pete's giving us.
He's giving me hand signals over
yeah.
there. I would say probably 95% of the people.
You were peeking. You were peeking at my notes. I see you looking at my computer. It is 95%, but that is a huge amount of people that have Teflon. It's a known carcinogen, and it's also poor for the environment as well. So not only is it horrible for your body, obviously, to have those chemicals in there, but it's not good for the environment as well. And the idea is when these pans get scratched or damaged or dinged, you really want to get rid of them, and you don't want to throw them away because they do put toxins into the environment. But you can drop them off to your local volunteer organization like a VOA or a Goodwill, and they actually send them to a metal refinery, so you can get the tax write-off, and they actually pick up the cash, and they won't wind up in the landfill. So there's a lot of good points to doing that. But a lot of people don't know that those pans are dangerous to your health and to the environment once they get scratched or
I'm
dinged.
sure you just drove their sales through the roof. I'm sure you did.
It's out there.
Everybody loves a tax
it's
write-off,
out
so I'll
there.
tell you that. All right, Simply Green Radio brought to you by Simply Green Energy and Mr. Rooter Plumbing here on News Radio 1180 WHAM, a website that we can give out, folks, mysimplygreenenergy.com. Again, mysimplygreenenergy.com. Let me throw this one out to all three of you, really, now that we are coming up toward the end of our first segment. We do want to obviously mention that we do have a guest here in studio tonight, Ernie Day, the GM of Global Point Energy, and he's going to be talking about solar, thermal, and evacuated tube collectors. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. It really is. We had the opportunity to actually have lunch with Ernie the other day, and we were going over a few of the things that we're going to talk about this evening. And I'll tell you, I really had no clue as to how much of a background that Ernie really had. But again, I don't want to steal his thunder.
Sure.
But it's I'm excited to have him as a guest tonight. It's gonna be real good.
Real quickly, Pete,
Yeah.
I know that you do a lot for this show on mysimplygreenenergy.com. Talk to our listeners, folks may be tuning in tonight for the first time. Tell them what they find there when they go to mysimplygreenenergy.com.
Well, when you go to mysimplygreenenergy.com, that is our parent website. You'll see illustrations of a lot of the technology that we talk about. And on the home page, at the top of the home page, is an invitation to listen essentially to podcasts of the show. And it switches you over to our YouTube channel, where you can listen to the show, today's show, yesterday's show, last month's show, next month's show. You can listen to all the shows, a segment at a time or in their entirety. And as I've mentioned a couple of times now, when you play them back, there is a new technology available on YouTube, which puts the words that are being said on screen.
So the deaf can hear
The deaf
right.
can actually read
the text,
show,
sure.
even though they can't listen to the show in real time.
That's fascinating to me. It really is. I mean, I know I've seen it each and every time you say that, but that's pretty impressive.
It's a great
just
thing.
Technology just keeps plowing forward, you know, and that's what this whole show really stemmed from, is the technology that's out there today, and it's just great to hear things like that. So it just opens up a lot.
We're starting
others.
to get more and more hits. It's almost it's a steep curve now. We went to a few hits, and you can really see the curve starting to get steep as far as because as more shows accumulate, you're going to get more hits, and it's really starting to get active now.
And it's amazing. I'm sorry, Brian. It's amazing because a lot of times, folks may not call in because sometimes people think, I don't want to answer or ask a silly question because I don't want. But people are out there. They might not be calling, but they're certainly listening.
How many places can you go and rewind a radio show?
Right.
I was going to say,
you can rewind it over and over.
For being on the show,
Right.
And wanting to recapture a lot of what I'm learning here
Sure.
each Sunday evening. It's just such a great thing to be able to go and re-listen, like you've said, once or even twice. I didn't quite catch that, or that didn't make sense to me. And the fact that we are interviewing all of the local experts in this area, they know their stuff. So we're talking good stuff on this show. It's exciting. And thanks for doing that work online.
Well, not a problem.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mo.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Brennan, just to expand on that, I mean, we are really fortunate that we do have a lot of local experts on this renewable energy stuff. And it's just great to be part of all that. And we are just in the infancy of it. We're scratching the tip of the iceberg with these people, So I'm looking forward to working with them.
And one of those experts is tonight in studio with us, Ernie Day, the GM of Global Point Energy. He specializes in solar, thermal, and evacuated tube collectors. We do need to cut away for a quick break, but we'll be back with Ernie and the rest of our crew here in studio tonight. Maurice Aubry, Mo, Pete Marisi, True Story Pete, and Brenna Hartman. Again, a website that we can give out to you folks, mysimplygreenenergy.com, mysimplygreenenergy.com. We encourage your phone calls, 222-1180.